What's good with YouTube? Y'all know, Big Flacco from ACP, a convict's perspective. Hoping everybody's having a positive, productive day. Before we get into this banging video, please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support your boy, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. Now, for those new to the channel, ACP's dropped a lot of bangers, man. We go back over 3 years. There's certain topics that we touched base on like 3 years ago that you won't see us touching really on because we've already done it. So go through our catalog, man. I'm sure there's a lot more content that you will enjoy. With that said, let's get to it. Now, I want to talk about this because I think people have their own opinion and they think that they know what the answer is. They have their own 2 cents, and a lot of times it's not even accurate. Why were Northern Raza rappers not collab with Southern Raza rappers? Well, that is if they're tapped in. Now, those that are fully functioning, that are active, that have contacts, right, that are in communication with somebody of importance, right, or somebody they know of importance, right, why they will never do a song with a Southside. The reason why, man, is pretty simple. It all has to do with that the Southsiders fall under the bandera of the Mexican Mafia, and that they pay tribute, do their bidding, and are basically their foot soldiers who do the bidding for the Mexican Mafia. Therefore, because they're under that umbrella, they can never really be trusted, and the NF have implemented that for years in the teachings, filters, whatever it may be, about how the relationship could be with Southsiders. It's supposed to be respectful, professional, yet business endeavors, right, where there's a lot more involvement, a lot more interaction, and pretty much where you have movements pushing their line, it can never be accepted, period. That's because of their association with the Mexican Mafia, period. There's no other alternative. You know, Skip said it himself, you know, it's all about the MA. The MA's suppression and past abuses will never be forgotten. So as long as one falls under that umbrella, they can never ever be trusted as far as to do that type of business endeavor. Now, certain things you're going to have relationships with and you're going to have a rapport, right? But that right there is going to another level. Just because there's an end to all hostilities does not mean that they're not enemies. How many times have you seen, like me and Wino and others, right, who have discussed that the Southsiders are not the true enemies of the NF, but the MA is, and since they do their bidding, there's that whole distrust that they can't ever be trusted as far as to a full extent, and this is just the truth. As long as they're rocking under them, they're always going to ride with them. Therefore, they're always going to be that threat. Now, the catch-22 to the situation is this right here, is that as an active Northerner, NF, whatever, right, you cannot acknowledge any inactives from the other group factions, even your enemies. Basically, the Sudanese would have to break away from the MA control on a general population yard in order for them to be able to do a track with the Norteno. Back in the days, right, when the NF killed Cheyenne, the MA swore revenge in blood, okay, that they would kill NF brass or NF leadership. That has yet to happen. Yes, they've killed NF members before and after the Cheyenne murder, right? But not one time have they killed anyone that was in a brass leadership position. Therefore, that vow has never been fulfilled. Straight, plain and simple. It was something that was put in our schooling way back in the day when I was incarcerated. That this was the reason why there would never be any attempts to have a full treaty with the Southsiders, let alone the MA. Now, if those that were in the state were still in leadership positions, right, it may be a little different. But something of this magnitude that's out there in the public, they're not going to allow it. They're not going to sanction it. See, there's been business dealings that have gone on between both the NF and MA and North and South on the streets, even in prison. But there's certain things that they're not going to show for the public to see because it's no one's business. And something like this would raise a lot of red flags and would pretty much potentially cause some type of dissension, you know, about how people feel about it. Now, of course, none of these northern rappers are going to give a response. Well, hey, the big homies won't sanction it because this and that, right? So they're going to sit there and say that there's just been too much bloodshed, that they're going to just stand on their morals and not do it. See, things like that have to get proper clearance, they have to go through proper channels, and it has to be sanctioned, permission to do so. And ain't no NF member gonna do that because they don't got the permission themselves to be able to give that. So even though there's a lot of money on the table, a project like that could generate a lot of income, but it's out there for everybody to see. That's the difference in other endeavors. The fact that it's been thrown around and discussed this long, it kind of shocks me, right? I kind of figured that after a while it would kind of lose a little bit of momentum, but I think it's just something that people kind of desire. They want to see. They want to see if it could happen, and who would it be, and how would it come out. It's like one of those things, like, you know, you're anticipating a gift, or you're anticipating, you know, a new restaurant that has all these, you know, 5-star ratings, right? You don't know how it's going to be. It's the same thing right here with these rappers. Now, you know, who would go good together, who wouldn't. Now, at the end of the day, I think it would cause a lot of conflict, right, amongst leadership on the northern side, because I think there'd be misappropriation of funds. Who made this deal? Who got it approved? All that has to play into effect. Then you got old Skip, right? And if General, who already feels that the South has already established more territory than it deserves up north, and that they want to continue to take and take and take, and that the North, if it continues to give, is going to have nothing left to fight for. So that's another biggie, right? Is some of the old leadership, man, they have a certain angle that they're looking at this for, because they've been there in the trenches back in the day, and they know what the agenda is of the other side. So this, you know, rap collab between North and South has nothing to do with North and South making it happen. It has to do with the NF and MA. Now, the MA has no problem. It's going to let their foot soldiers do what they do, and it's just going to cash in where it needs to cash in. Very little morale is given because they're one of the deepest cars in the state. You know, the Southsiders, man, they outnumber the Northerners. So it's like, you're not going to change that. You're not going to change anything that the Southsiders can and cannot do in certain environments. You're not going to knock them down. You're not going to establish territory down south. If anything, a collab would benefit the MA, because you're slowly deteriorating the NF's foundation for the North. Now, all that I speak on, I'm not saying that I necessarily agree. I'm just saying that these are the reasons, the real reasons. It has nothing to do with anything else. I still think in maybe a decade, maybe two, the possibilities there then. Right now, everything is still fresh. There's still a lot of alpha males, a lot of tribalism when it comes to the outside, right? So, you know, I don't think it'd be in the best interest for anything to happen unless it was something positive, you know, as far as stepping away from the, you know, speaking just on gang lifestyles and talking more about change and maybe comparing similarities. Because right now, the Cardinales skipping them, they're not going to allow it. It just isn't going to happen. You know, the relationship, you know, that the state sees have with some of the, you know, states, MA, is different than what the Fed sees have in the Feds. The Feds, there's no relationship, there's no rapport. State's a little bit different. We also got to remember that situation with Believer. That right there rubbed a lot of people wrong. You know, a lot of people laid it down over that, that's tried to speak out, including his celly. So that situation alone would withhold any type of, you know, rap collab based upon just that there. And no matter what it is, it doesn't even matter, because whatever the NF says, the Nortenos are going to have to comply. No ifs, no questions, no concerns, no debates. None of that shit's going to work. Whatever the NF says is what everybody's going to have to do. And right now, I think the last thing of their concern is making collabs with Southsiders.